All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and this is the final prospects list. We have 125 targeted Commander prospects that the Commanders have confirmed interest in several different ways. There's Senior Bowl, informal meetings, formal meetings at the Combine, East-West Shrine Bowl, private visits, private dinners, which we're definitely going to talk about specifically for every person that got one of those. Then you have virtual meetings, private workouts, all kinds of ways, pro days, everything. So we're going to dive into some of the most notable players, whether it be because they're expected to go early in the draft. We can take a look at who the Commanders are probably the most interested in. And then also when it comes to the late round guys, that's the main reason I do these lists, so we can see who the Commanders are targeting on day 3 and as undrafted free agents. Who are the guys that they seem the most interested in that are the most likely to end up a Washington Commander at the very least heading into training camp. We currently only have like 75 players on our roster, so we have spots open. We're gonna get up to 90 by the time we get to training camp and things like that, so things are about to get interesting. So these undrafted free agents matter. I mean, Armani Rogers was an undrafted free agent last year, Jared Patterson the year before. These guys are contributors and guys with talent, especially Armani Rogers. I know how much I love him, and I think he has Darren Waller level potential. So don't sleep on these later round picks and undrafted free agents. Cameron Crowe was a 7th round pick. Don't sleep on the 3rd round picks. Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Benjamin St. Juste. Hopefully Deonte Brown starts to ball out. Our starting center, supposedly projected, and our starting, hopefully, franchise quarterback are both 5th round picks. Cole Holcomb was our longtime best linebacker for a minute. He wasn't great, but he was the best linebacker we had for a while. He was a 5th round pick, I believe. So again, the flashy 1st, 2nd, 3rd round picks, the guys that are going to get drafted on Thursday and Friday, are really fun too. But this list is mainly to see who we may be targeting in the later rounds or bringing in as an undrafted free agent after the draft. But before we dive into everything, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up for all of the draft coverage. I'll be live streaming everything draft Thursday through Saturday, and of course I'm gonna do video breakdowns, film sessions for all of the guys that we bring in, at least the most notable guys. So that's gonna be for the channel members. Make sure you stay tuned and become a channel member to get that access. But of course, Thursday the draft starts at 8 p.m. I'm streaming at 6:30. That's when we're starting. We'll stream all the way through the night, and then I'll also be live streaming Friday rounds 2 and 3 and also rounds 4 and 5 on Saturday. So make sure you pull up for all of the content. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, so for those of y'all who don't know, I'm using the Draft Network's big board because that's the one I've just been using every year anyway. And the reason I started with them because I feel like they do the best job of getting a consensus of a lot of different smart expert analysts contributing to one list rather than it just being one guy or a handful of guys. It's a myriad of people that are all collaborating to put this big board together, and that's why there's so much movement and things like that. So that's why I tend to trust them the most. But of course, there's no perfect big board. Nobody has the perfect big board. But the one that I probably trust the most is the Draft Networks. Even though I prefer Pro Football Focus's mock draft simulator, I like the Draft Network's big board the most. And of course, when it comes to big boards and where people get picked, all of this is here. And of course, I mean, I guess I should have said it in the intro, but y'all already know this entire PDF file that we're gonna look at this video is free for y'all to access as a PDF file. Link in the description and link is the pinned comment, so y'all can use this whenever you want. I've been coming out with these videos for months now, so y'all have been able to get the updated version of these PDFs every time I update them. This is the final one, so I'm excited, man. But yeah, man, as you can see, round 1 through 7 undrafted free agent, just big board wise as a reference. Well, that's why they're color coordinated. When we get to this page here, that's where the colors come from. But I'm probably explaining that to people that already know that. So let's go ahead and dive into the fun stuff, man. The stuff that where we really get to breaking things down and analyzing. First of all, highest projected pick for each position group is interesting because first round wise, we could take quarterback, tight end, interior offensive lineman, safety, offensive tackle, edge rusher, or cornerback according to the Draft Network's big board. Again, for many reasons that I've already explained in several videos and live streams, I think offensive tackle makes the most sense. Even though technically interior offensive lineman, cornerback, and linebacker are our 3 biggest needs, the way that the draft is set up, the way that the talent is set up, there's no interior offensive lineman I'm willing to take 16th overall. You might as well take a tackle and when in doubt, move one of the tackles we already have to guard guard, like Andrew Wiley, move him to left guard or whatever you got to do. But the tackle talent in this class is just too ridiculous for you not to take one in the first round. Then to add to it, the reason you really got to take a tackle in the first round, because after the first round, maybe early second, there's a big drop off. Whereas corner, you can get a really good one, I believe, in the first, second, or third round, and they're all fairly similar within the same range of talent and projection. So you take the tackle in the first round, you take the corner in the second round, in my opinion. But things get interesting because we've seen that Chase Young's fifth-year option is not getting picked up. They may go edge rusher in the first round, especially if the guy that Draft Network sees as the seventh best player in the draft, if that guy falls to 16, you can easily argue that's best player available at that point. And Ron Rivera has already said, based on how they've treated free agency, to where we have no major holes at any position, they're not going to reach on anybody in the draft based on need. They're more than likely going to go best player available. I still think we're ultimately going to trade back when it's all said and done, but at the same time, it's a two-way street. You got to find somebody that's willing to give you the value that you want to move up to that 16th overall pick. So we'll see. And if we end up getting stuck at 16, things get really interesting based on this. And then, of course, the suggested biggest needs just based on how many players out of the 125 at the different position groups. Now, the returner is technically receiver, but I don't count them because we're clearly bringing them in to be a returner if we bring them in. That's if we even bring them in as an undrafted free agent or maybe in the 7th round. Interior offensive linemen dominated this draft cycle. Out of the 125 players that we've shown confirmed interest in, 33 of them are offensive line, 27 are defensive backs. Then you have 12 linebackers, 11 tight ends, 11 defensive linemen, 11 wide receivers, 10 running backs, and 7 quarterbacks, along with 1 kicker and 1 returner. And what's really interesting is because I've had my biggest needs like this entire offseason. This has been like this since like December or January. And so it's crazy that through all the shuffling since I've been updating these players and this list throughout the past few months, things have moved left, right, up, down. The order has changed. But I've had mine the way it is the entire time. So it's really cool that offensive line, defensive back, the top 2, that's what I have. Offensive line, cornerback, and even safety depth arguably is like next. Franchise quarterback, again, I have it in all caps, and it's kind of like you ignore it because if Sam Howell is that guy, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, we don't know for sure that Sam Howell is that guy. So really my need started offensive line, honestly. And then you have linebacker 3rd, same for me. Tight end 4th, same for me. And then after that, you start to get a little weird depending on what you prefer and things like that. I think an explosive returner instead of Dax Milne is huge. And so far, the Commanders haven't exactly shown that they really prioritize that, but we'll see. And then one thing to note that doesn't really show up in the chart because I don't have people's heights and weights. Maybe I'll do that next year. I guess I probably should do that next year. But the receivers out of the 11 that we're interested in, apparently, I think like 7 or 8 at least are minimum 6'3" and taller. So there's clearly a guy that they're looking for. They're definitely looking for a Cam Sims replacement. We brought in Marcus Kemp from the Kansas City Chiefs with Eric Bieniemy, but he's clearly only a special teams guy. He's nowhere near the receiver of Cam Sims on offense. And so out of like the 11 receivers we're interested in, I think at least like 8 of them are 6'3" or taller, like 6'4", 6'5", all of that. It's crazy. And even some of the tight ends we're interested in are like 6'5", 6'7", and even 6'8". So there's clearly a certain type of player that we're looking for, especially in the receiving group. And the reason I'm addressing that right now is because it doesn't really show in the rest of the list, and it just came to my mind. Definitely wanted to point that out. But again, I believe return is a big need. Kicker, you could probably get that guy as an undrafted free agent, which we'll look at a little later. Again, 393, we're not worried about that. And then return at 317, so we'll see. Our last draft pick in the 7th round is 211th overall. The returner's 317 and the kicker's 393 on the big board of the Draft Network, so we can easily bring them in as undrafted free agents, I'm assuming, but you never know. The draft gets really weird. Now let's dive into the fun, man. So out of the projected first round picks, my bad for the scrolling, you have Christian Gonzalez, Miles Murphy, Devon Witherspoon, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson Jr., Joey Porter Jr., Peter Skoronski, Brian Branch, DeJuan Jones, John Michael Schmitz, Luke Musgrave, Anthony Richardson, and DJ Turner. Out of the projected first round guys, at least big board wise, according to the Draft Network, if you want to go ahead and dip into the later second round, because some of these guys will more than likely end up going in the first round anyway, we can start with Emmanuel Forbes going up, Hendon Hooker. We got Adebawore from the edge from Northwestern, Darnell Washington, Darnell Wright, Deonte Banks. So those are some guys that are in the first round conversation. And out of all of those guys that I've named, the guys that they're probably the most interested in, if you're looking at confirmed times met or reference, that's kind of a clue as the guys that they're most interested in, I would assume. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, because we took Jahan Dotson Johnson in the first round, and we never showed any interest in him last year. No private visit, no, I don't believe we even went to the pro day, didn't meet with him at the combine, nothing. So you never know. But Christian Gonzalez, 3 reference points of interest, formal combine meeting, went to the Oregon pro day, and a private visit. I highly doubt he falls to it, so it's really no reason to put too much stock into that anyway. Devon Witherspoon, 3 points of interest right there. Paris Johnson has 3, Joey Porter has 3, DeJuan Jones has 3, Anthony Richardson has 3, and Darnell Wright, thank goodness, has 4. Hendon Hooker has 4 as well. The things that make some of these guys really interesting is because it's being reported lately, like within the past couple of days, that Paris Johnson Jr. is our number 1 tackle on our board, and then Darnell Wright is our number 2 tackle, and they would not pass up on Broderick Jones. If those 2 guys are gone, it's being reported that if Broderick Jones is available 16th, they like him as well, but they don't like him as much as they like Paris Johnson Jr. and Darnell Wright. So if either of those guys are there at 16, expect us to take one of those guys. I hope it's Darnell Wright. He's arguably my favorite tackle in this class. I have like Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, and Anton Harrison for me. Paris Johnson is probably like a really close 4th, but either way, any of those tackles in the first round, 16th overall, or if we trade back and still get one of those guys, I think that's automatically us killing the draft, in my opinion. Of course, I also like Darnell Washington and guys like that, but we're not here for what I prefer. We're here to look at what the Commanders may prefer so we can start to try to guess what they're looking at. And Hendon Hooker, one of the only 2 prospects we took to private dinner. Again, I've been saying it over and over again in videos and live streams, but we've only taken 3 people to dinner as the Commanders organization this offseason. The first one we took, he ended up becoming our offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. The next one was Hendon Hooker, and then we also have the edge MJ Anderson out of Iowa State. Those are, including Eric Bieniemy, the only 3 people that we have confirmed taken on a private dinner. That's strong interest there, and again, with them being 372 on the big board, it's very likely that we can end up bringing him in as an undrafted free agent. So remember that name, MJ Anderson out of Iowa State. And then these are all of the second round prospects. Again, all of this is free for y'all to access as a PDF file, link in the description and the pinned comment in the comment section. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and read off all the names. I'm just trying to point out some of the most notable things. Again, like with the heights of the receivers that we're mostly looking at and the guys we took to private dinners. And then you have strong interest things in here as well. It's being reported that we have strong interest in Hendon Hooker, even beyond just the private dinner. There was a report that we really like Hendon Hooker, and if he's there in the second round, we're definitely taking him, but I doubt he makes it to the second round at this point. Some people think he's going top 20 in the first round. But then also some really interesting news that came out today. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida, apparently Marty Hurney is trying to get the Commanders to do what they got to do to get him. I don't know how Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera feel about the situation. We don't know that. But apparently from trustworthy sources, Marty Hurney is fighting for the Commanders to find a way to get Anthony Richardson. He's making his case for Anthony Richardson and things like that. So that's really interesting. And then beyond that, some of the names that we're most interested in, Osiris Torrance with 3 reference points of interest as well. Then you have Tyler Steen, offensive lineman from Alabama, 3 reference points. Alex Forsyth, he had the most reference points with 4 for the longest. Like until we got like all of the updated information as of today, he was the only player with 4 reference points on this list for months running. So there's clear interest there. Of course, they went to Oregon's pro day and they probably looked at Christian Gonzalez, but I'm pretty sure they know Christian Gonzalez is out of their reach of 16, especially since we're not the type of team to trade up to get a guy anyway. So I'm pretty sure the main reason they went there was Alex Forsyth. But again, we're going to look at the pro days soon, and we're also going to look at the visits. Those are 3 separate charts separate from this. This is just the main chart with all 125 guys. We're going to look at pro days and visits after this as well. So stay tuned. But we went all the way to the NFLPA Bowl to meet with Keidron Smith, the cornerback out of Kentucky. So you just got to really look at this list and really look at what's going on here because there's some interesting things in it. I mean, Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion, local guy. I think he would be a huge get. I mocked us getting him, I believe, in the 6th round in my final predictive mock draft. So I wouldn't be surprised there. And like I said, man, these undrafted free agents, man, take notice, especially the guys we bring in for private workouts. We're bringing in for visits like these guys down here and all of these guys, man. This gets crazy. This is gonna get really interesting. There goes that kicker from earlier, like I was talking about. And then you have some guys come in for Washington local days, where Washington basically held their own pro day, like the Commanders held a pro day in Virginia, and some of the prospects showed up. We have some confirmed. I'm pretty sure it was more than this, but these are the only ones we have confirmed. I only have like 4 or 5 or something like that I know of. So again, if you want to analyze this list all you want, break it all the way down, but I don't want to be here all day for 4 hours, 5 hours talking about every single one of these guys. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the rest of the list. So now we're looking at the pro days attended. And then the guys in this column are all of the guys that we have confirmed interest in from this chart. If they're not on this chart here, then they're on this side, and there's some of the top prospects that maybe, even though we don't know if we're interested in them through other means, maybe we went to that pro day to also look at these guys as well in this side. So, but this is the main side that we want to pay attention to. That's why it's bold printed and underlined. And then of course I wasn't able to confirm each time we went to a pro day who went and why and things like that, but if I did, I made sure I wrote it down. But I'm not just gonna put in information that I haven't at the very least heard from somebody else, whether it's trustworthy or not. I'm not just gonna make stuff up. So I only have who visited if I saw it from at least a somewhat trustworthy source. And so we went to all of these pro days. Again, this is something that you have access to the PDF file if you want to go through and really look at who we may want to take. And this list is really interesting as well, but I want to take more time to look at the visits, which again is color coordinated based on the rounds that they're projected to go in. And we're only allowed to have 30 visits. So the ones that we know for sure that are confirmed by the Commanders themselves are the ones that have dates next to them. Everybody else has yeses. It was reported that they had a visit, but apparently maybe we didn't officially because they weren't a part of the Commanders report, but I still kept them there because there's something there at the very least. But anything with a date, we know for a fact they came for a Commanders visit, like all the way to Ashburn or whatever, so they can run the medicals on them, measure them up the way they want to, maybe work them out a little bit, talk to them face to face, all of that type of stuff. So make sure you pay attention to the visits with the dates more than anything else. And then below that are all of the Washington local pro day guys, so don't be surprised if we take an interest in these guys. These guys are like unranked, and again, our last pick is like what, 217 or something like that. So after 217, these guys are unlikely to get drafted anyway. You have 418, and these guys are probably below that because they're not even on the Draft Network's big board. So it's quite likely that we're able to bring them in as undrafted free agents if we want to go that route. And Jared Patterson is really interesting. Well, James Patterson, my fault. He's Jared Patterson's twin. He was there at the Washington local pro day. Maybe we'll look at him to potentially bring him in as a linebacker. I'm pretty sure Jared Patterson is definitely banging on the table for him, just like Marty Hurney is banging on the table for Anthony Richardson. And maybe we'll consider it. But yeah, man, these visits get interesting. Out of the confirmed ones, first round goes Christian Gonzalez, Myles Murphy, who, again, with the Chase Young and Montez Sweat situation, don't be surprised. Remember, no defensive end on the Commanders roster currently is under contract beyond this regular season. That is crazy. Are we the only NFL team with a situation like that right now? Literally, if we would have just skipped time right now and go to the 2024 season with no changes, we literally have no defensive ends on roster. And that's even including James Smith-Williams, who's a defensive tackle and defensive end. Shaka Toney's technically the only one who's suspended indefinitely for at least a minimum of a year. Literally no defensive ends on roster, so do not be surprised if we take Myles Murphy sooner than people think, or an edge rusher, period. But we're going to take some edge rushers in this draft, or we're going to get to extending some of the guys we already have on roster, because again, going into 2024 with no defensive ends, no edge rushers is crazy, especially when we pride ourselves being the best defensive line in football. I mean, that's just insane. But also, I want to remind people, we technically don't have an offensive lines coach right now, which is really weird heading into a draft, which is really weird, period. If you're going to fire a guy, you normally have his replacement immediately. Now we do have the assistant offensive lines coach who's already here. I can't remember his name right now, so maybe he's like the interim offensive lines coach, and maybe he'll just be promoted. Maybe he's already promoted, they just haven't announced it and like officially made it public. But that's really weird that we don't have an official offensive lines coach to this point. We're already going into the draft, and this has existed since free agency started. That's really weird. It's crazy, actually. I mean, the Commanders never do anything normal and conventional, so I'm not surprised. But yeah, first round wise, as far as confirmed visits, Devon Witherspoon as well, I really hope he slides to 16. I mean, him and Christian Gonzalez are the only way I'm not taking a tackle in the first round. Joey Porter Jr., Brian Branch, and DJ Turner as well. Then you have Deonte Banks. Darnell Wright, my favorite tackle prospect, arguably my favorite potential player that we could take 16th overall. Then you have Hendon Hooker, Emmanuel Forbes, Osiris Torrance, and Joe Tippmann. Man, Joe Tippmann makes me sad, man, because him, along with a lot of other guys on this list, they were projected to be way way later picks than they are now. But after teams finally started to do their film and guys starting to do their mock drafts and notice that, hey, this guy should not be going in the 5th round like he was projected to go like back in December when I was doing mock drafts. So, man, I'm sad to see that he's a projected 2nd round pick now, because I feel like it's almost impossible for us to get him unless maybe we trade back and acquire an additional 2nd or 3rd round pick and take him then or something. But I just don't see it happening. But I mean, you have DeMarion Overshown as a linebacker, quite likely to take him in the 3rd round. So again, I mean, we're here. Anton Harrison, I think, is going to end up being a 1st round pick. That's really interesting. Now, he's not technically a confirmed top 30 private visit, but I heard that the Commanders are potentially interested in him, and he's my 3rd tackle in this class. I like him ceiling-wise, at least, even more than Paris Johnson Jr., so we'll see. And then I love Jaquavius Quan Martin, but the cat's out the bag. He's probably going in the 2nd round. The Draft Network still has him as the 101st big board player. It is what it is, but confirmed meeting there. There's confirmed interest, so if he's there in the 2nd or 3rd round, we're probably going to take him. I have Kyle Soley, confirmed visit to Ashburn. I have us taking him in like the 5th or 6th round or something like that on my final mock. So, hey, man, things get really interesting. This is going to get really chaotic. This draft is so fun because we don't really know anything. There are so many different ways that the Commanders can go because, again, we don't have any glaring holes. We have some needs. Again, linebacker, left guard, cornerback, and technically tackle if you want to look at it that way. We don't have any glaring needs, though. Like, there's no way we go into week 1 without fixing this. Maybe left guard is the only one where we don't necessarily trust the competition between Chris Paul and Sadiq Charles, and that's it. We're going to bring somebody else in to compete with that, and which lets me know that since they didn't mention Andrew Norwell, he's probably going to get cut because, again, I keep bringing this up, but we only have like a little over $2 million worth of cap space right now. We don't have enough money to even pay this upcoming draft class starting tomorrow, so somebody's going to have to get cut real soon. Contracts restructured, whatever. Chase Roulier, Logan Thomas, Charles Leno, Andrew Norwell, I'm looking at you. But yeah, man, there's not too much else to really dive into. Again, we'd be here for 3 hours or more if I were to really dive into each player and the interests and talk about each guy and weaknesses and strengths and things like that. That's a lot, so I'm not going to necessarily do that today. But again, you have free access to this PDF whenever you want it. Literally have it up to the side while you're in my live stream Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Have me up one spot, this list up to the side, maybe on your phone, and then you can be watching the draft coverage through ESPN NFL Network if you want to. But make sure you have me up on your screen with the live stream. I'm going to be breaking down every pick. Y'all know me, man. I'm a Commanders fan, of course. Commanders fan first. But I'm also a Georgia Bulldogs fan, and I also just love football, period. I'm going to be predicting and analyzing every pick that every team makes. So make sure you pull up for that live stream because it's not necessarily a Commanders live stream. As a Commanders fan, of course, I'm going to hope that the ball falls perfectly for us, for Darnell Wright to make it to 16 and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm talking about and breaking down every pick at the very least through the first 3-5 rounds because I'm attached to a lot of these players and I'm also interested in seeing what other teams do. Again, I'm a football fan at the end of the day, so make sure you pull up for that live stream. And again, have me up on one side of your screen, have this list up on the other, and let's get busy, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And as always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I cannot wait for this draft. This is such an ambiguous draft. We can go anywhere, so that's making this even more fun and suspenseful. We literally have no idea. We have so many guys that we're interested in, and we're probably so okay with so many prospects. We like and love so many prospects that they probably don't even exactly know where they're going to go yet. And Ron Rivera and Marty Mayhew already said that they're really going to put a big board together starting at the 11th pick once we're 5 picks away from ours, and then go from there. So that's really interesting. That's a really interesting draft strategy there. But yeah, man, get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about this entire thing. Again, this PDF that we just looked at, this entire video, is free for y'all to access. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.